Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever really thought about a famous old building and considered that it might have lived, well, a bunch of different lives? Today, we're going to dig into how these historical places aren't just frozen in time. They have these incredibly complex, layered stories of being built, torn down, and sometimes completely reinvented.
I mean, just think about any historic site you've ever been to, right? You look at it and you kind of see this one perfect picture, like a postcard from a long, long time ago. But the reality? That's just one chapter. These places have lived through centuries of crazy change. You've got the original vision, then maybe the chaos of war, and then, if they're lucky, a total rebirth.
And this isn't just a one-off thing. It's a huge challenge all over the globe. Preserving our shared history is this massive, never-ending job. You've got these incredible projects happening everywhere, from ancient sites in Bangladesh to the temples in Cambodia. So, to really get our heads around this universal story, this cycle of loss and rediscovery, we're going to zoom in on one absolutely iconic place, the Red Fort in Delhi, India.
All right, let's jump in. We're going to travel way back in time, to the middle of the 17th century. This is when the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan gets this grand idea to build a whole new capital city. And right at its heart, he wants a fortress palace that's just magnificent.
So, the Red Fort, or Lal Kila as it's known, wasn't just, a fort for defense. No way. It was designed to be the absolute center of the entire empire. It was a statement, a breathtaking symbol of architectural genius, raw power, and this incredible mix of different artistic styles.
And inside, the emperor's private world was basically designed to be paradise on Earth. You had the Kas Mahal, his personal home, but then there was the Muthaman Burj, this cool octagonal tower. From there, he'd do this daily ritual called Jaroka Darshan, where he'd literally show himself to his people. All of this, plus little details like the carved scale of justice, it was all part of this master plan to project imperial power and make the emperor seem like this super just, almost godlike ruler.
I mean, the Archaeological Survey of India basically says it all. This was the absolute high point of Mughal creativity. A total masterpiece. But, and you knew there was a but, this paradise, it was not going to last.
Okay, now we hit the year 1857, and this is where the story takes a dramatic and honestly, a really brutal turn.
So, following the Indian uprising, the British Army marches in and takes control of the Red Fort. And just like that, this palace of incredible, delicate beauty was about to be transformed into a cold, functional, and, imposing military base.
The change was absolutely devastating. I mean, a huge chunk of the original beautiful Mughal buildings just gone, demolished. They were totally leveled to make way for what people at the time called hideous British barracks. Can you imagine?
And people noticed. A historian from the 19th century, James Ferguson, was just furious about it. He called it a fearful piece of vandalism. And you know what really got to him? The fact that the people who tore it all down didn't even bother to make a map or a record of what they were destroying. It was just erased.
So the few stunning Mughal buildings that did survive, like the emperor's private audience hall, they were totally stripped of their purpose. They turned one into an army mess hall, for crying out loud. Ferguson had this perfect, sad analogy for it. He said it was like taking precious gems from a beautiful necklace and just shoving them into a lump of cheap plaster. The original magic, the soul of the place, it was just gone.
But the story doesn't end there. After almost 100 years as this symbol of colonial military might, the 20th century rolls around and the Red Fort is reclaimed. It's reborn with this incredibly powerful new meaning for a brand new nation.
And this timeline here really lays it all out. You can see how the fort's own story perfectly mirrors the huge turning points in India's history. It goes from the center of an empire to a colonial stronghold, and finally to a symbol of independence. Because in 1947, this is the spot. This is where India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, stands up and declares the nation's independence. And in that one moment, that single act completely transforms the fort. It stops being a relic of old empires and becomes this living, breathing symbol for a new, modern, independent India.
And this symbolism is just so powerful. As the social scientist Shiv Viswanathan points out, think about it. Every single year on Independence Day, the Prime Minister of India unfurls the flag right here. It's this ritual that kind of reinforces this big idea that governments, politicians, they change, but the state, with a capital S, is permanent. It's monumental. The fort has become this national stage where the country's story is retold and renewed. But wait,
the story's still not over, not by a long shot. Today, there's a whole new chapter being written, and this one is all about rediscovery. Right now, archaeologists are out there, literally peeling back the layers of history, trying to find what was lost beneath all those British barracks.
And you know what they're using as a guide? This incredible map from 1850, made just before everything was torn down. So the mission is basically to take this old map and use it to find the original Mughal layout, the gardens, the water channels, everything. It's like a huge historical detective story. So how do they do it? Well, here's the process. First, they pore over that old map. Then they bring in the tech, ground-penetrating radar, GPR, which is kind of like an X-ray for the ground. It lets them see buried structures without digging. And only then, based on what the map and the radar are telling them, do they start to strategically dig.
And boom, here are the results. This is an actual dig, and you can see they've uncovered a Mughal-era water channel that the GPR scan picked up. It's amazing. They are literally physically uncovering the paradise that was paved over all those years ago.
And just look at what they're finding. It's basically the skeleton of the original gardens. We're talking huge water channels, over 10 meters wide, with signs of fountains. They're finding the foundations of old galleries, and they can even see the impressions in the ground where the original stone slabs were ripped out and stolen. They are physically reconnecting with the fort's lost, glorious past.
So the story of the Red Fort, it just goes to show you, right? These incredible monuments are never just stone and mortar. They're like living documents. They're filled with countless stories. Some we celebrate, some that were deliberately buried, and others that are just waiting for us to find them. It really makes you wonder how many other histories are still buried right under our own feet.